the remaining catters and turbulence associated.
So we are going to go out on a little bit of a date while we're waiting for Catherine to get in from New Mexico. And then we're going to do some spinning wheel reviews. We're going to talk about wool. We're going to talk about food storage. It just sounds wonderful. And I do have a little bit of jet lag. I will say that I love minivans for traveling in. When we got this in Florida, it was the best decision we've made. Trish let us borrow her minivan while we were there for a little while, and that was when we decided that if we had to get another car, that's what we were getting. It's beautiful and green here. Funny thing is, it's just as beautiful and green in Idaho right now, and the weather there was actually warmer than it was here when I got in. It actually was.
Yeah, when you got in right behind a giant rainstorm.
It's beautiful here. The humidity does not bother me. I don't mind humidity. I mind really bright sunlight because I'm a redhead and I burn, so it's taking it easy. So I don't mind humidity. It's beautiful here. I have kind of missed it. It was fun to see the garden bed. Fun to see John. He had school and work this morning, so I didn't get to see much of him initially, but super, super fun. Hey guys, so we made it home and I have 3 different types of beds to show you. John has been keeping them watered, but we're in Tulsa, which is a more water-prone area. They get more rain than we do back home. So about how often do you think you were having to water it?
It was daily.
Daily?
Sometimes twice a day, but you'd have rainy days like last night, and so then you can skip a day, you know.
Okay, well let's come in and look. So a lot of what I planted in here is peas. I had a bunch of old seeds that I kind of like to call them garbage seeds, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because they're a little old. Some of these were like 10 years old and they were just from the hardware store and a friend had sent them to us. There's nothing wrong with them, but sometimes the germination rate isn't as good as it could be. But you can see here, the germination rate was just fine. What I like to do in the spring is plant really heavily, and then I will actually pull out what doesn't need to be in here and feed it to the rabbits. So most of this would have been fed to the rabbits by now because it is thicker than you want. This is the Russian Bocking 14 comfrey that I got from Marsh Creek. I'll put the link in the description below. I think it's Marsh Creek Farmstead, something like that. And so the comfrey is doing well. And it looks like all of my basil froze. We had really, really cold temperatures while I was still here, but John had a busy, hectic, you know, with school and everything. So as far as needing to put down your frost cover and anchor it really well, that's really essential. We had colder weather while I was here, but not a gardener who kind of knew how to anchor things down. So that was the difference. That's why we don't have basil. I don't see a lot of weed seeds in here, but what I do see are tree seedlings. And so this is underneath a tree. It's not an optimal place to put a garden because you're going to have shade, but also because you're going to have little seeds that fall in. So that's what those are. And they would need to be pulled out if you didn't want them to be stealing nutrition from your plants. So it looks like mostly this bed is still just peas and comfrey, all of which can be fed to rabbits. So if they're not putting on, this spot might not be getting enough sunlight for it to really put on a lot of flowers. I don't see any actual peas in here, so there is that. And that is kind of disappointing. You know, you want to see enough, you don't want to see so much green, you want to see more food. So this is the bed that was just made out of bricks with some layering of rabbit manure and mulch, and then some perlite and peat moss on the top mixed in. You see that it's doing just fine. It's a non-soil based garden bed. Okay, so what I want to point out to you is why I did the garden bed this way. why I didn't push it up against the fence, why I have carbon underneath. I used a lot of cardboard underneath this bed, and the reason is that this area is prone to vines. If you push your bed up against the fence, those vines are going to come up the back of that fence in that tiny space between the fence and the bed, and it's going to creep between everything and get into it. I've left a wide berth here so that as I need to, I can get over here in these vines and I can pull them all back and cut them all back. I can get in here to weed it, and other than that, the carbon that's underneath will keep all the other weeds out. But that's why it's kind of a bad idea not to allow yourself access to all 4 sides of this garden bed, is because you're going to have weeds that are going to encroach, and you need to make it easy to get in there with a weed whacker or pruners or whatever it is that you do.
Did you want to point out the Exhibit
vine?
A? Yeah.
So early when we got here in November, I took down this whole fence was covered in these vines, and some of it is honeysuckle, and honeysuckle goes out of control, and some of it is ivy. So it had grown up onto the electrical line. It was on the fence, and that's how much it has grown back in the 8 weeks that I've been gone. And so this here was down, and I put it back, and it has grown back that much just in the 8 weeks that I've been gone. Same thing here. You guys can go check out those videos, but if I leave it open, I can get in here with the weed whacker, and instead of having to do like the big tear down again, all I really need to do is come in here along the ground and weed whack things, and it'll take it down.